All right, let's get into this. I'm joined once again by law and crime legal analyst Mike Korobanix and trial attorney Marie Napoli. Okay, Mike, let me start with you on this. So you're hearing this letter, and this is from a sergeant, Sergeant Hall, Kurt Hall, who's described as a multiracial man with a brown complexion. So my guess here is this was brought into evidence to suggest that Travis McMichael is not a racist, and this was not a racially motivated attack on Ahmaud Arbery. Your thoughts on the impact of this letter?
I don't really see this letter going anywhere. Number one is when you have these kind of hearings, we've got to keep reminding ourselves is the rules of evidence at a bail hearing is nowhere near the strictness or as closely followed as at a trial. However, this seems to be a letter you'd want, if I'm the prosecutor, I'd want to have that person testify and be subject to cross-examination because it just seems so inconsistent that someone could make these sort of blanket defenses for this defendant and really look at that video and say, how could that person make those sort of conclusions based upon this new fact about the defendant? And I think that's what the prosecutor is going to go after at that point in time.
Well, you heard about Travis. Let's actually move to Greg. This is Greg's defense now, Gregory McMichael. And this is Allison McMichael, who is his wife. Take a look.
So when you met your husband, Greg McMichael, he was in the law enforcement career. Do you know what drove him to pick a career in that field?
He liked law. He liked working with people.
And again, I feel like you're a little too far from that mic.
He likes law, and he likes working with people.
Did you sense that he liked the power of strapping on a gun and being in charge?
No, ma'am.
Do you think he pursued that field because of money?
No, ma'am.
Right. Has your husband ever shot anyone?
No, ma'am.
You say that very quickly. Is that important to Greg McMichael?
It is very important to him.
Why do you think that's important to him as a law enforcement officer, never to have shot anyone?
Because there's been so many opportunities that he did not have to use it. He did not have to use his gun.
Would you say that that's a relief to him?
That is.
When Greg McMichael was working in the Brunswick Police Department and the Glynn County Police Department as well, both. Do you understand that he worked with a diverse group of colleagues, men, women, people who had money, people who didn't, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all sorts of diverse people?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you aware of whether there has ever been a single complaint from a colleague about Greg McMichael having mistreated him or her as a result of the diversity in that office?
No, ma'am, no complaints.
Are you aware if there's ever been any internal affair or personnel investigation against him for him having mistreated anyone of a colleague?
No, ma'am.
Now, as a police officer, he is helping a diverse group of citizens in Brunswick. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
People, white, black, young, old, poor, rich. Are you aware of whether there's ever been a single problem that's been lodged or complaint that's been lodged against Greg McMichael in all those years of public service for him having mistreated a member of the public?
No, ma'am.
Has there ever been an internal complaint that had to be investigated?
No, ma'am.
Has he ever had to appear before any internal investigation board for such a thing?
No, ma'am.
And one more time, at the district attorney's office, he had colleagues that were diverse. He dealt with a public, witnesses, suspects, victims who were diverse. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of there ever having been a single complaint lodged against Greg McMichael to his boss, to the courthouse, to Glynn County personnel, that he had mistreated a member at the district attorney's office?
No, ma'am.
How about having mistreated any member of the public while he was a DA investigator?
No, ma'am.
Does your husband have a motto about how he intends to treat everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you state that for us?
He always believed to treat people how you want to be treated, to treat people with respect.
Do you understand that your husband has significant health issues that
Yes.
must be addressed?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
When Greg McMichael was not in custody, was he diligent about maintaining his medical protocol so as to stay alive?
Because of me, yeah.
Okay. Would you ever tell him, hey, Greg, it's time for an appointment, and he'd say, forget it, Lee, I'm not up for it?
No, he would not.
Okay. Do you know right now of any physicians, any specialists that he should have been and needs to continue to see on a regular basis?
His cardiologist, gastroenterologist, and we need to do a follow-up on a neurologist.
I want to show you, if you take a look at Defendant's Exhibit number 11. Do you see that photograph?
I do.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I tender Defendant's Exhibit 11.
No objection.
What is that a picture of?
That's of Greg holding a couple of fish.
Okay, Marie, I turn it over to you now. You're hearing kind of the defense of Gregory McMichael, that he wouldn't resort to using this kind of armed force unless absolutely necessary. He had some health conditions, again, trying to support his release on bond. That did not happen. Your thoughts on this? Because again, it kind of echoes, it kind of previews what we might expect in a future defense at a trial for Gregory McMichael.
You know, I found her testimony to be credible. I believe she believes what she's saying. But most racist people who have these ingrained notions of race discrimination don't know that they are racist. Okay, this is something that's taught as a child to be that people of color are dangerous. This is something that's really inbred in them from children on up. Not that they have hatred towards other races, not that they wish to harm people of other races, but they're brought up to see them as dangerous. So there's a difference between a hate crime, committing a crime because of hate of a different race, or committing a crime based on race discrimination. These defendants believed that this man was dangerous and a criminal, and probably had his gun because of his race. That's race discrimination. That's a crime based on race. It's different than a crime based on hate. I don't believe that these defendants just hated people of different races. I believe that they had false beliefs based on the way that they were raised. So in the end, does it help them? No. Unless you have a jury of like-minded people. I'm not really that familiar of the area they're picking the jury from, but quite honestly, if they have a jury of like-minded people, maybe their defense will work. But I do think she was credible. Do I think that this is going to help them?
And you know what?
No.
I do want to get into that. I want to get more into the jury selection process. We do have to take a break, but before we do that, you know that we've been following what's happening in Ohio in our new trial, Erica Stefan.